again today. They beat the Cubs yesterday 5-3. Atlanta 48-33. Halfway through the season, they now lead the Phillies by 5.5 games in the division. They lead the Nationals by 8. The Nationals have won 2 in a row, 20 of 29. They are now 3 games ahead of the Mets. The Mets 11 games out in the division, losers of 4 in a row. The Mets are reeling, the Nats are dealing, and it's the Braves division to win. I've told you that for weeks now. Atlanta will start Bryce Wilson today in Chicago against the Cubs. He's a rookie. He's fastball reliant. We'll see how he performs, but the Braves seem to be one of those teams, one of those years. Keep your eye on them. In the Central, the Cubs, even though they've lost 2 in a row and they've lost 6 of 10, they still continue to lead the Brewers by a game because the Brewers have lost 2 in a row and they've lost 7 of 10. Okay? The Cardinals, they've lost 3 in a row. The only team who has won a winning streak is Pittsburgh, and that's a winning streak of 1. Cincinnati's also lost 4 in a row. It's a division nobody seems to want to win. The Cubs are now 43-37, a game ahead of Milwaukee, 2.5 games ahead of St. Louis, 5 games ahead of Pittsburgh, and 6 games ahead of the Reds. Just when I thought the Reds might do something, the Reds lose 4 in a row. I tell you, that's just the way it goes, right? Let's check out our chat room this morning real quick before I get into further business. Let's see. I've got DK Lush, I got Jim Ross, I got Mal Powell, I've got Easy Kill, Leonard Donaldson, Unholy Toledo. Wow. A lot of folks. Andrea, she says, for Odorizzi, it's all about the hitting. The Twins hit like crazy, and Odorizzi stays rosterable. Maybe so, but he pitched really well too, Andrea, earlier in the year. And I know you love me talking about your boy. Unholy, I agree. Marisnick is the odd man out, and I think it's time to bring up the rookie. Let's see how he does. What do you think about that? Lenny says Cha-Cha's always the odd man out. Anyway, Lenny, good to hear from you this morning and everyone in the chat room. This is a great network Lenny and Andre have set up. It's fantasy baseball round the clock. You can't get any better than that, right? The Dodgers lead the West by 12 games. They lost actually yesterday. Can you believe it? They lost a game. Yeah, they lost to the Diamondbacks in the desert yesterday. 8-2. The Clark, the rookie, with the win for the Arizona Diamondbacks. I'm almost speechless. For the Dodgers, Bellinger went 1 for 2. He's at 354. What about the Dodgers? Do you see them making any moves? I tell you, speaking about being resilient, they have their shortstop, Corey Seager, who struggled all year long. And then around the 1st of June, Corey Seager gets hot, really hot, raises his average like 30 or 40 points. And now he gets hurt. And so the Dodgers are without a shortstop. They have Chris Taylor on the bench, hitting a mighty 197. They put him in the lineup. And now Chris Taylor raised his average 50 points in less than 2 weeks. That's right. The Dodgers just seem to fill in with what they have. They got this Beatty kid playing left field, playing first base, hitting over 300. Jock Peterson doubled last night. They got him playing first base. They just move it around, don't they? They're going to Colorado for 4. All right-handers. Peterson, Verdugo, Bellinger at the top of that order. Are you kidding me? Look for some runs to be scored. Look for the Dodgers to continue to roll. They lead the Rockies by 12. They lead the Diamondbacks by 14 and the Padres by 14. So these are certainly games that matter. The Dodgers, the Rockies. Let's see how things continue to go. I do want to look at the wild card standings with you for just a moment. In the American League, Tampa, again, I said, leads the wild card by a game. Cleveland and Texas tied for that second spot. And then check this out. Boston trails the second spot by 1. Oakland trails the second spot by a game and a half. And the Angels trail the second spot by 3 games and a half. In the National League, you got a 3-way tie for the top wild card spot, okay? So you got Colorado at 42 and 38, Milwaukee at 42 and 38, and Philadelphia at 42 and 38. If the season ended today, one of those guys, I don't know how they do it. I don't know who would play into a game. But they're all three tied right now for the 2 wild card spots. The Cardinals are a game and a half out of a wild card spot. Arizona 2 games out, San Diego 2 games out, and Washington 2.5 games out of a second wild card. Interesting, isn't it? So that's our look at the standings this morning and where we stand going forward. Now let's take a look at some of the games coming up later today. And before we do that, Lurie Garcia, let me mention him real quick. Lurie Garcia, 3 for 5 last night for Chicago. He's now playing shortstop with Anderson out. Lurie Garcia is a great add in fantasy because he's going to be multiple positional and leading off for the White Sox. The White Sox are a team who can score some runs, and Lurie Garcia, shortstop outfield eligible, would be a great add in fantasy. Let me hear you. I like me some Lurie Garcia on this last Thursday in June. Let's take a look at our afternoon and evening games. There are 10 games today on the Major League slate. 6 are afternoon games, 4 night games, so it's a reduced slate. And, of course, the Red Sox and Yankees are in England getting ready to play a 2-game set of the weekend, so you won't have either of those teams for fantasy over the next couple of days. Let's start off with the 1:05 first pitch between the Phillies and the Mets. It'll be Zach Wheeler going for the Mets. He's 6-5 with a 4.69 ERA. He'll square off against Aaron Nola, who is 6-2 with a 4.55 ERA. It's been a shaky season for both of these pitchers, and I'm looking for some runs today to be scored in this game. Wheeler, as I said, 6-5. He's got, over the last 3 games, very inconsistent. He gave up only 5 hits in his last start at the Cubs on Saturday. He went 7 innings in that game, gave up 1 earned run, struck out only 5. But his 2 previous starts to that, in a combined 10 2/3 innings, he gave up 20 hits and 3 walks with 9 earned runs in those combined 2 games. It's been a very inconsistent and shaky season for Wheeler. Today, he's pitching against the Phillies, and here's a couple of hitters I want you to look at today. Cesar Hernandez, the second baseman, in his career against Zach Wheeler is 9 for 19 with a home run. That's a 4.74 average. He also has a stolen base off of Wheeler. JT Realmuto is 7 for 14 off of Wheeler. That's, of course, a 500 average. And Maikel Franco, he's 3 for 12 with 3 walks and a home run off of Wheeler. All of these are right-handed bats. I haven't even mentioned the Bryce Harpers. I haven't even mentioned more bats going down the order. You know, Rhys Hoskins could certainly be a player today. Gene Segura with a big hit last night, the game tire for the Phillies that pushed that game at extra innings, and the Phillies eventually won. For the Phils and Aaron Nola, I tell you, a player I look out for today for the Mets against Nola is Dominic Smith. He has been on fire. This is a 4-game set, and today is the 4th and final game of the set. Dominic Smith, in the first 3 games of the series, has started all 3 in the outfield. He has gone 6 for 12 over his last 3 games with a home run in each of his last 3 games and a stolen base. On the season, Dominic Smith is hitting .339 with 7 home runs and 13 RBIs. I'm going to look for Dominic Smith to continue his hot streak today in Philly. Lots of runs there. These are some guys you want to look for today in fantasy. At 1:10 p.m. this afternoon, the Texas Rangers, they're in Detroit to take on the Tigers. Gerardo pitching for Texas. Spencer Turnbull pitching for Detroit. These are young pitchers. Gerardo is 4-3 on the year. Turnbull, a very disappointing win-loss record, 3-7, but an ERA of 3.29. Turnbull has been pitching fairly well and fairly consistent throughout the season. And because of the young, these are rookie pitchers, there's not a lot of stats to give you on these games. But I do want to point out, and I recognize this is less than 10 at bats, okay? But you've got the Rangers hitting less than 200 off of Turnbull for the players that have played against him. This could turn out to be a good outing for Turnbull at home in a pitcher's park against the Texas Rangers. Also at 1:10 this afternoon, the Tampa Bay Rays conclude their series in Minnesota against the Twins. Stanek will be the opener for the Reyes and Perez will be pitching for the Twins. Rosario went out last night with a twisted ankle. MRI did show no serious damage. Don't look for Rosario to be playing today for the Twins. I think he'll get the day off and probably, from what I'm reading, be back for the weekend. So he avoided a serious injury. He had gone.
I couldn't find what you were searching for on Apple Music or in your library.
He had gone 4 for 4 on Wednesday. He had gone 2 for 2 last night before the injury. Sorry about my phone jumping in there. What's going on with that? But Rosario certainly. Or on Tuesday night, he was 2 for 2 last night before sliding into second and injuring his ankle. Look for reports, but what I'm reading this morning is that Rosario will not be out very long. This is not a serious injury. As far as hitters today, look for in that game. Now, Perez he started out the year doing fairly well for the Twins, but he's been slumping of late. I'm not a believer in Martin Perez. His numbers on the year, he's 7-3. A lot of those wins came early, okay? He's got a 4.28 ERA. He's got a 1.43 whip. But here's something key about him, all right? He for his last 5 starts, here are his numbers. His last 5 starts, a 7.50 ERA, okay? Not what you want to be seeing. So as far as hitters today for Tampa, look for these left-handed bats and a few others. Here's a player you might can get on the cheap in daily fantasy, Guillermo Heredia for Tampa. If he's starting, check your lineup. And by the fact of this being an early game, you'll have time to do that. But career-wise against Martin Perez, he's 10 for 23 with 3 doubles. That's a .435 batting average against Perez. Austin Meadows, I look for him to have a breakout of his semi-funk he's been in lately. Brandon Lau's a great play today. Avisail Garcia as well. Avisail Garcia having the right-left advantage with Martin Perez being a lefty. I really like Avisail Garcia today in that game. I look for Tampa to win the game. Let's see, for the Twins, not a lot of facts to give you here on numbers because there's just not been any history against Stanek as an opener. I will say this, though. Jorge Polanco, in only 4 at-bats, has walked once, 2 hits, and they're both doubles. And Polanco hitting, very well on the season. So I could look for him to have a big game today against Tampa. At 2:10 p.m., the Pirates are in Houston. Joe Musgrove, 5-7, pitching against his former team, the Astros. Peacock pitching for Houston. And has anybody, do you look at the box scores for the Pirates? If you do, did you look at what they did last night in Houston? The final score last night was Pittsburgh 14. Yes, 14. And Houston only scored 2. Pitching last night, Valdez has just been destroyed for the last couple of games. I watched him pitch this past weekend in New York. He absolutely had nothing. He continued that last night. 3 innings, 8 hits, 6 earned runs. His ERA has ballooned to 4.57. But for Pittsburgh last night, a few players to look for today, and they've been hitting. Newman, the shortstop, he went 4 for 6 last night. He's up to 326 on the season. How about Corey Dickerson? Corey Dickerson, a great hitter, particularly when a right-hander's on the mound, and that's Brad Peacock today for Houston. Dickerson went 4 for 4 last night. Yes, he did. And Valdez started the game as a left-hander against him, but he went 4 for 4 last night with 3 runs scored and 3 RBIs. He coming off the injury, getting in the lineup now, and for the next, I believe it is 5 days, Pittsburgh will be playing against right-handed pitching. So I am a big Corey Dickerson fan over the next few days. Let's see how he does. I'll look for big things today from Corey Dickerson against the Houston Astros in Houston. Now, speaking of Houston, what about their pitching? We talked about their hitting a little bit, but Forrest Whitley, something I want to point out to you. Forrest Whitley, he's the number 1 pitching prospect in baseball, or one of the top pitching prospects in baseball, and he had a shoulder problem, fatigue. They rested him. His start of the year was horrendous. I think his ERA was like way over 10. Okay,